In this third session, we're going to look at the key concept of witness. Many of you probably already know that during the 2008 General Conference session, our membership vows were changed. Some very key words were added to change the way we look at it. These words are also in your workbook, and you'll find them on page 9. The change in our vows really has refocused the energy of what it means to be a member in the United Methodist Church to realize that our real allegiance, first and of all, is to Christ. Originally, we were always talking about being faithful to the United Methodist Church as members. But now our vows remind us that we are to be faithful to Christ through the ministries of the United Methodist Church. More than that, we are also called to be participants in the church through our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and now the word witness has been added. What it really means for us is that what once was a focus on the church as an institution has changed now to the church as a movement. And let me say a little bit about that. Throughout history, the church has found moments for what we would call reformation. There were times early on in Jesus' ministry when it was very clear that the purpose of the church was to be a movement. Jesus and the disciples literally would go from place to place spreading the word of God's love and compassion and care. And it would be centuries later when that movement would continue across the face of the earth, but eventually it would turn into a kind of institutional church, where all of a sudden all of the strength and power of reaching out to the community and to the world became refocused on the welfare of the institution. If we look back to those reformers we know best, Wesley and Calvin and Luther, we will quickly recognize that the church had fallen out of the movement and really focused itself on the institution to the point where those reformers, like John Wesley, decided that we needed to change things. And Wesley went to the Anglican Church first and said, there are so many people in need that are not a part of our fellowship. How do we get them into the church? How do we minister to these folk? The answer back to Wesley was, kind of jokingly, we have front doors, there's a sign out front, and all they have to do is show up. We're here for them. But Wesley knew what the truth was, that there would be many people who would feel uncomfortable, they would feel like aliens in the church environment, and they were simply being ignored. And so Wesley asked for permission to go and preach to where the people were. And the answer was, no, John, you can't do that. If you do that, you'll lose your pulpit. And so John Wesley packed up his stuff, left his pulpit behind, and moved us into a new day in the life of the church. Well, friends, there are many of us who really believe now that we're on the verge of a new reformation of the church, a new reformation, if you will, a time for us to think again about not focusing so much upon the institution and about all the programs and things that we can do, but to refocus our attention on the real reason that we are the church, and that is spiritual formation, the making of disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. How will we be faithful to our role as witnesses in this new day, in this new world in which we live? How can you as a church rethink the way you witness to those who need to hear the story? And as an annual conference, how can the conference best resource local churches to be faithful to the membership vows that we are now taking in the name of Christ?